Namaste and welcome to another episode of Tech Storytelling. This tech story is for the business leader and by the business leader. Today, I have an amazing guest, Mr. Butterfield. So, Butterfield is the director of ISG Automation. So, Namaste and welcome to the Tech Storytelling.
Namaste, Madan. Thank you for having me.
All right, great. So before we get started, can you please let us know about your role with ISG Automation, what essentially you are doing, and what's your background into intelligent automation?
So I guess from an ISG automation perspective, I've been at the company 4 years now. My role really is to help organizations think about their people, process, and technology when it comes to using automation or thinking about automation. I've been a very early adopter of RPA technologies, chatbot technologies in the organizations where I've worked before, and so I've been able to make a lot of early mistakes, and they've enabled me, I guess, to understand what works, what doesn't, and then as a consultant in helping our clients, I can kind of show the right path versus maybe some of the wrong turns that I've taken historically. Now, I'm really fortunate that I have a lot of freedom in my role. And what that means is I get to spend a lot of time, speaking to thought leaders like yourself, working with clients direct, working with the software vendors, and bringing all of that kind of knowledge back under one roof, and then helping ISG automation as our own internal capability and our clients with their strategies and deployments as they look at using automation technology themselves. So really fortunate in my role to be given such freedom, and I think it really benefits our clients with me and my focus and where it is.
Yeah, that's great. So Wiley, you are pioneer, thought leader, risk taker, contributor, mentor, and all-rounder. And you are very keen on helping your automation journey, making sure others, your partner, don't make the early adopter mistake what you did. This is one of your very prominent quote on the LinkedIn. So would you like to tell our audiences what are those early adopter mistakes which you did and you would like to course correct here?
Cool. Well, I guess automation's nearly got me fired 2 or 3 times. So I have a few stories to tell, I guess. The first one obviously was around the tactical use versus strategic use of automation. And back in 2010, I had a corridor conversation. It was with my head of finance at the time, who'd heard of a technology called Blue Prism. I think one of his friends was was part of the organization, and I literally brought them in. We completed a proof of concept using, I think it was someone's ID credentials that we borrowed, and I had a knock at my virtual door from our infosec and compliance guy saying, what the hell's going on? Why are all these transactions going through at lightning speed on so-and-so's ID? And he says that you said that you can borrow it. So long and short, it was very, very under the radar, so much under the radar that I nearly got walked out the door due to compliance and other challenges. So the first one is, let's do this properly. If we're going to do it, let's do it properly. And then the second one, interestingly, was a lesson I still, heed now. We used automation to do what it does best, deal with really high transactional volume. And working for a telecommunications company, there was at least one time in the year when your volumes were going to be significantly higher than any other point. And it's usually around September, and it usually involves one of these, an Apple iPhone. And certainly back in kind of 2014, 2015, I think it was around about that time. We were expecting unprecedented demand every year for the new iPhone, and so we automated the ordering process. All the pre-orders were going to be placed by RPA, and unfortunately, we forgot to add a little bit of common sense into the automation. And what happened was that the pre-order file with all the orders on, somebody had uploaded it twice, so somebody had uploaded it and then somebody else had uploaded it again. There's lack of communication there. And what it meant was the robot placed 2 orders on the first half of both sheets, and the second half got 0. So what it meant on launch day was that there were a lot of people with 0 iPhones and a lot of people with 2. And as you can imagine, on launch day of a new iPhone, that went all the way up to the CEO. So that was the second time that significant questions were asked of my own capabilities and what the hell was happening. So it was great from a visibility perspective, not for me personally, but for the robots, because it now made it kind of up to the board that we had this capability. But obviously, on the downside, we had a load of very disgruntled customers. The lesson was, we forgot to add common sense in.
Yeah.
If a person had seen these 2 files and was placed in the same order, they just said, hang on a minute, I've already placed this order, what's going on? And so I realized that adding common sense into your process was, something that you absolutely need to think about. And the question we actually used to ask ourselves was, what is the worst that can happen in this process? And we used to automate against that ever happening. So even though it might not be in the process, because a person has common sense, we had to almost codify common sense into our automations. And that's something I still think about and talk about now.
Oh yeah, that's great. So our audiences who are watching, Viney is a great blogger. He's a podcaster. At the same time, he keep writing a lot of posts. Please follow me on the LinkedIn. So, I would like to know the insight. One of the article that you wrote on the LinkedIn, the future of customer support, and where you emphasized on DIY, do it yourself, or DIFM, do it for me, and where you talk about what will the future. So my question to you is, outsourcing shared services, managed services has become an innovative model to save the cost. So where do you see with intelligent automation, the future of contact center or the future of outsourcing?
Brilliant. So many facets to that question. Where do I start? So I guess the first one is customer service was something, that I literally grew up in the contact center. As a customer service agent from a very early age in my career. And so it's always something that I've been really, really close to. I was kind of exposed, I guess, to the DIY, do it yourself, versus DIFM, do it for me context. Interesting, when I was at BT, there was a growing trend. And just to give a little bit of context about that, and just to bring it to life, there are certain people who like to do things for themselves, of course, and there are certain people or certain situations where you like somebody to do it for you. And I liken this to...
Sorry to interrupt you. Your video is fridged. I can't... Oh, yeah, better.
Oh, nightmare. Could you still hear me, though?
I can hear you, but your video is fridged.
Oh, very annoying. I am plugged into the Wi-Fi as well, which is I wonder whether there's anything else I can turn off. I'll have a go and see if there anything else I can turn off. But while I think about that, if I go into a shop, I very rarely ever will approach a salesperson. I always expect them to approach me. And different people will have a different expectation when they go into a shop. And maybe it's not even that expectation is always the same. Sometimes it differs depending on what type of product you're looking to buy. So if it was, can you get me some shoes in a certain size, I'm quite happy to go and ask. If it's, I'm about to spend £1,000 on a TV, pretty certain I want you to come to me and make me feel a little bit special.
Yeah.
So that the whole DIY, DIFM, that's where I really think about that. Different situations, you wanting a slightly different experience.
Yeah.
When I think about that in the context of intelligent automation, if I was to go back kind of 2 years, I think the model really was, I want to do it myself, but I need you to teach me how. If I think about where we kind of are now, it's really interesting. There's a number of different models that are being deployed. Entire managed services that are being completed for clients. They're even almost outsourcing the capability end to end. So the technology, the infrastructure, the assessment, the process assessment work, the automations, the managing of the automations. Really, you kind of creating an end-to-end service for automation, and you are basically, letting a third party completely own that. Now, if I go back, even 2-3 years, the market itself was just not mature enough to even consider that as a model. Whereas, as we look at it now, that is quite a mature offering from some of your large kind of Indian players, and maybe even some of your smaller pure plays. So I think the whole kind of DIY DIFM model really over the last couple of years, as the intelligent automation market has matured, has really flipped on its head. I mean, I know I used to spend my earlier years helping people help themselves, and that used to be 100% of the time. That is all that we would do. Is we would teach you how to fish.
Yeah.
We wouldn't just present you with a whale. We'd teach you how to catch them yourself. And so it's really interesting how this as a service model has evolved over the last kind of 18 months, 2 years. And I'll be really interested to see where it goes moving forward. Certainly the role of technology to assist with automation, not just the automation tools themselves, but things like the monitoring tools, even things like the move towards automated process discovery, automated document creation. Soon we'll have automations creating automations, I'm sure. So, really interesting space. Great question, by the way.
Oh yeah. Thank you. So, nowadays RP adoption has gone a far away, but industry is really struggling to scale. In one of your podcasts with Sal Khiara, scale or fail. So, would you like to? Yeah, great. It's a great subject. So, would you like to just summarize the conversation? But by the way, my question, what I would like to know is what are the key elements required to scale your automation and how to measure it actually?
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, I wanted to call that episode "Scale or Fail with Shale." It's not often that you would get such a rhyming title, but interestingly, that episode did talk about metrics associated with scale, and one of the things we said it definitely isn't. It's definitely not the number of bots that you have. That's not a good indication of whether you scaled or not. And the reason being, I guess, is because that's quite relative. If you are a global multinational organization that has hundreds of thousands of people, then having 100 bots versus an organization that has 1,000 employees with 80 bots is almost you would say, well, 100 bots, well then they must be more scaled. In reality, no, because it should almost be the size of the robotic workforce versus the potential opportunity that there is within that organization. It's a really difficult one to truly say, what is scale and shale. interestingly, in that conversation, spoke about he had an acronym for it, but basically a collection of leaders in large organizations that come together on a regular basis to talk about automation, to talk about what they're doing well, to talk about where they need assistance. There's no vendors, there's no third parties involved, and Shale shares that. And he did highlight kind of a couple of metrics. For him, it was about kind of value, extracting value. It was about seeing the outcomes versus the number of bots that you have, and really focusing on the value that you're creating, and understanding that in the context of the wider automation and wider organization is where you can truly say whether you're making a meaningful difference. And if you're making a meaningful difference, then that is akin to have scaled. And you could make that meaningful difference with 10 bots as much as you could with 1,000 bots. It really depends on, what it is you're looking to achieve, what those results are, how you're measuring them, but also in the context of an organization, how meaningful are they? And I also always come back to, my kind of early days at Telefonica, when I think about having 160 bots, back probably running in about 2015, 2016, completing around about 1 million transactions a month. And, you would say, well, are we scaled at that point? Well, those 1 million transactions that were now completed by robots still didn't really positively affect our overall cost base. So it's difficult to say that we'd scaled. Yes, we had a large operation and we were making a difference to our customers, but was it meaningful enough? Was it a board level priority? Had we considerably shifted the cost base? You would probably say no, we hadn't. So therefore, in kind of Shale's language, had we scaled, you would probably say no, there was a lot more to go. So yeah, really interesting episode. I think it was episode 4. If and maybe we could put it in the show notes.
So I love the rhyming. Scale or fail or sell.
Yeah.
It's a great rhyming. Thank you. So my question, scale or the business outcome, right? And where most of the business leaders are struggling to have the strategic alignment to achieve the business outcome. So based on your experience, what are those key ingredients should be used in order to achieve the business outcome from the automation?
Mm-hmm. So I think the first thing is, as much as we talk about this being a technology play, for me, it's all about the people and the process. That is key. The technology is almost it's a mechanism to help facilitate change, but actually the change is more about the people and the process. I often see and have read around programs failing. Now it's usually not the technology. The technology is pretty stable, right? It very rarely falls over. It does what it says on the tin. The things that change on a kind of deployment by deployment basis are usually the things you're trying to automate or the way that work is completed, and whether or not that's actually appropriate in the first place. Culture is another kind of really important aspect. Is there a willingness to take on change? So it's these type of kind of fundamentals that I think are really, really necessary to facilitate true transformation. And then thinking about some of these other ingredients, I struggled bottom up when I first deployed RPA, and the only time the board were aware of the work I'd done was when I nearly got sacked because I caused such a big problem that it made it to a board level priority. So flipping that on its head, if you have the support of your senior leadership and it's a top-down approach, it's more strategic, it's transformational, That's surely got to be, one of the ways of being
Yeah.
able to, facilitate bigger, wider, more meaningful change. And bringing people on that journey is something that's incredibly important. And the whole change management around this, I think, is significantly underplayed in the role that change management has to play if you are to really make big change in any organization, whether it's automation, whether it's anything else. Change management, communications, and all of the things that, they're not as sexy as the technology, right? They're fundamentals, but they're not things that you write blogs about continuously and have huge valuations against. They are kind of operational tasks that unfortunately we have to undertake well in order for any of these transformational technologies to really have a positive effect in the business.
Oh yeah, that's great. I mean, I love the another rhyme is change for change management. All right, great. So my last question, in conscious of time, this is more respect to the career transformation. So thousands of people may be watching our interview on YouTube, and where I'm more obsessed with the project managers and the business leaders. And there are a lot of people who are trying to transition their career into intelligent automation, data science, analytics space. So what's your suggestion? I mean, how to get started who are coming from more strategic, more project management background?
Brilliant. I think the great news is there is just so much content written and available. There's absolute treasure troves in LinkedIn and YouTube. I mean, it literally takes 20 seconds. It takes 20 seconds to research, and before you know it, and this is one of the joys of working from home. My 2-year-old has just entered the room. Beatrice, Daddy's on the phone. Sorry, Madan.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Sorry, everybody watching.
No worries, I'll edit it. Don't worry. And this is normal. In pandemic, this is normal.
Okay, right, Beatrice. Right, you can say hello. Right.
Hello, how are you doing?
Please go. So, I mean, we're so lucky now. There's so many things available online. There's so many useful supporting people. Kieran Gilmurray, Emma Roloff is doing a load of great stuff at the moment. I'm always posting content. You're doing great videos. All of the software technologies all have universities, free content. There's literally anything and everything you can imagine is all available online, generally free. And that's before you get to things like Udemy and other kind of more official sources that all have courses. So it's a fantastic place to learn, and all of this content, as I say, is readily available and free.
Yeah, that's great. All right. So with that one, thanks a lot for taking up the time today, Winnie, and really it's great conversation with you. Thank you very much.
Brilliant, Madam. Really great to catch up with you. Fantastic questions.
Yeah, great. So with that one, I mean, you are watching and hearing to Winnie Butterfield. He's the Director of Cognitive Automation and Innovation. He's available on LinkedIn. Guys, stay connected with him. Send him request and extend the thought process. Thanks a lot for watching, and stay tuned for the next other podcast. Thank you.